So I just finished the Final Fantasy VII Remake without having played the original, and I am absolutely blown away by how lost I am. I am a Final Fantasy fanatic through and through that grew up enthralled with the series. I fell in love with a lesser known installment called Final Fantasy XII Revenant's Wings for the DS. This game was absolutely legendary in the sense that you could command an entire army of the coolest monsters from the series. Although I am a Final Fantasy veteran, I've actually never played the original Final Fantasy VII. Some purists may say that I am a disgrace of a Final Fantasy fan for this, yet given that I consider Final Fantasy XIII to be Square Enix's magnum opus, I know that I'm among the most elite of elite fans.
Are you talking back to me? Huh? Huh?
Nice gun.
Stop her! Free!
I suppose my lack of interest in the 7th installment stems from the fact that the game is quite literally prehistoric to me. No, literally, it came out just short of 3 years before I was born. And you might be thinking, but you've played older Final Fantasy games than that, and you would be right in saying that. However, I am a man of principle. I started from Final Fantasy 1 and worked my way up until I became distracted by some other new shiny game around Final Fantasy 3 or 4. And why am I telling all of this? Well, I suppose it's to provide a bit of background on my experience with the remake. Other than Cloud and Sephiroth turning up randomly in my much loved Kingdom Hearts playthroughs as a kid, and those Super Smash Bros. DLCs, I suppose I'm otherwise entirely unaware of everything to do with Final Fantasy VII. And I know that I'm late to the party when it comes to playing this game, but just in case there are some other fashionably late gamers out there, I would like to warn you that this next section of the video may contain spoilers. Or maybe it won't, because I actually do not know. It seems like you actually need to be spoiled by the original Final Fantasy VII game to have even the most minute clue about what's going on in the story in the game. First of all, who in God's name is Sephiroth? He seems to appear in delusions to Cloud throughout the game, but on his first clear physical encounter where Tifa, Aerith and Barret can all corroborate the fact that he was there, they all act as if they know who he is.
Cloud?
Tell me, is it really you?
I still do not know anything about the man, apart from the fact that he wields a katana-like sword and speaks with a monotone voice. They really loved giving male characters in this game the most expressionless voices, because you know, they are men, and men do not know how to show emotion. I read a game FAQs post where a user describes this issue with precision. They say, not knowing anything about the main villain of the game after playing for 60 hours is a major problem, and I have to agree. I believe I was about 35 hours into the game when Sephiroth first appeared. A handful of hours later, and Aerith tells us that he is the greatest threat to the planet.
He'd tell you that he only cares about the planet, that he'd do everything in his power to protect and preserve it. But this isn't the way it's supposed to be. There's no greater threat to the planet than him. Sephiroth has to be stopped. He has to be. And that's why I'm asking you to help me. I know that together we can do this.
Quite dramatic, right, for a character that we just met? She tries to tell us that he is a self-proclaimed climate activist, and that is why he is terrorizing the world with what I can only describe as a mishmash of nobodies and heartless from Kingdom Hearts. I'll have more on the similarities to Kingdom Hearts in a moment, but from what I can gather from my playthrough, it seems like the tadpoles are ensuring that faith is preserved, and given that the player defeats the tadpole boss at the end, it seems to point to there being room for alterations in the Final Fantasy VII story going forward in the next remake installments. From my own interpretation, these Guardians of Faith have been disposed of, thus leaving the story wide open to potential deviations from the original game. Yet having said that, I wouldn't have a clue anyways, because the original game remains a complete mystery, and with it the remake as well. Although I have taken aim at Sephiroth specifically, this game repeats this poor character integration throughout the game. We meet what feels like the population of a small Irish village during the 16th chapter, The Belly of the Beast, when Cloud and Co. finally infiltrate the Shinra headquarters. It again felt like we should have gotten to know more about the characters like Scarlet and Palmer. I personally found that Hojo was the most fleshed out and developed character in the entire game. Although he might have been completely crazy, at least he was interesting. Using flashbacks is a common trope in all types of narratives, whether it's in a book or on the big screen. They're used to fill the reader or viewer in on details that contribute to our understanding of the plot and key characters. And I can safely say that I still do not understand what the flashbacks in Final Fantasy VII were supposed to highlight. They simply confused me throughout the game. Flashbacks also tend to tie in with the final scenes of a game or a story, yet many of the visions were meaningless. I have an inkling that this is down to the fact that I haven't played the original game, and don't even get me started on this character Zack. I thought the game was going to go full Kingdom Hearts and introduce an evil form of Cloud, with black hair or something. I wouldn't be surprised, and who knows, maybe I'm right, because you guessed it, Zack is also rushed into the final scenes of the game. Who is he? What is he doing there? Why is he in the game? Us newcomers are none the wiser. Maybe we'll find out, or maybe we won't. Finally, the lack of cohesion within the story presented in Final Fantasy VII Remake leads me to believe that the game is far from a remake, and is more akin to a follow-up or an addendum to the original game. The entire branding around the game seems highly misleading unless you're old and have lived long enough to have sunk time into the original game. While it may sound like I have major gripes with the game's story, because I do, I thoroughly enjoyed the combat in the game. It feels like they struck a perfect balance between creating a fluid experience that also incorporated more traditional RPG mechanics like the skill menu. Final Fantasy XV failed miserably at trying to craft an experience as smooth as this, and it cost the game. I could not see the game through. A poor narrative experience is one thing, but a fundamentally poor gameplay experience is not salvageable, at least in my view. All in all, I must say that I keep coming back to the sense of confusion and bewilderment. It's a familiar feeling. Upon completing the game, I had to step back and really think about where I had the same experience. While I may not have played the original Final Fantasy VII, I was somehow feeling an overwhelming amount of nostalgia, but I just couldn't put my finger on what it was until the credits began to roll. Ah, that's it. The same Tetsuya Nomura that's known for his easy to follow, not convoluted, super accessible and totally logical stories. Thank you.